That was the inside of the Starbucks. There's a homeless man there with a whole bunch of gear. We had that issue down at the Starbucks in Boulder, Colorado on the Pearl Street Mall. My first year there in Boulder being homeless after meeting Miss Bobby, homeless people used to come in and just assume that I was going to watch their stuff. Pretty soon I was surrounded by, I called it Mount Homeless. It was a bunch of homeless people's gear that they just assumed I was there to watch. It got me into a lot of trouble. A lot of people didn't even ask. They just came up and sat next to me and left their stuff. So, there isn't really a moral to the story as far as that part goes. Mostly the story that I'm trying to express and get across to you is the fact that there's a bunch of little homeless communities like this. There used to be a few of them here and there where, you know, there's a friendly business that's, you know, homeless friendly. And, you know, you get a few of the homeless people down there. But now there are so many homeless people. The services that used to be there are gone. The homeless population is getting huge. The prisons and jails are already full of homeless people, so they want to build more to lock up more homeless people for being homeless, for being broke. If you have done any research on the top 10 reasons why people become homeless, you realize that the homeless are the victims. You notice where they came from. They came from the system with nothing to start off with. They didn't have a good start. And that start is important. That's the difference between you having credit or not having credit. You know, when you have a vehicle and a driver's license and a job already, and then you turn 18, you know, you're kind of prepared for it. But when you're dropped off out of the system, you have no ID, no driver's license, no vehicle, no job, no roof. Yeah, you're not going to make it. That is just too far behind. Too many things that you have to make up in order to just have bare minimum for what our society requires. Alex Furman, he's a patent lawyer. My recycled plastic brick. He was trying to help me to get that out there. You know, that's what my studies were. Swords to Plowshares. That was, there's a Facebook group. It's called Trash to Treasures / Airplane Enthusiasts. That's a lot of my studies. And I went back through it all. Well, not all of it, but I noticed there was a lot of stuff that I got wrong or typed wrong, or I put the wrong name in there because I was excited at the time. It's similar to being overwhelmed. I mean, you got a lot going on in your head, but it's good stuff. It's not as overwhelming as when it's bad, and it's those terrible emotions, and you have no outlet. You can only take it. That's all you can do is take it, and take it, and take it. Most of these homeless people are never going to be unhomeless again. They're going to be stuck out here because you don't care. And a lot of you are going to get stuck out here too because you don't care. You might get housing, you might not. Most of the people I know who tried to get housing for years, they got housing right before they stabbed me in the back. It's tough not to think maybe that was their incentive for doing so. Before they had nothing to lose, but now that they got a roof over their head to lose, they won't stand up to the tyrants anymore. They're afraid of losing what they got. They're afraid of ending back up out on the streets. When you're out there, you're just looking for your next fix. People are addicted to all sorts of stuff. Sometimes it's food. Sometimes it's sex. Sometimes it's drugs. Sometimes it's music. Sometimes it's just attention. This world that we're living in is pretty fucked up. We, the people, that's the most important part of the whole fucking thing. We, the people. People say you need to mind your own business, but then they don't mind theirs. They say, Sean, you need to smile and rise above. And then when they get a tiny taste of what I'm going through, they react just like me, if not worse. They're more expectant. They want it immediately now. Me, I don't get that luxury, and I know it. And for these people, they could do what it is that they said they were going to do a year ago, or more. They could still do that today. But it's funny how when you call people out on their bullshit because they haven't done it, and it came and went, the opportunity for it to make a difference. When my evidence disappears, it sucks. I mean, the stories that I told right there at the very beginning, all the stories that I told, they were all stories that I could verify. And now all I can do is talk about many of them because I don't have that phone anymore. I lost it last July, or last June. And a lot of the stuff that happened with a lot of the people I was arguing with recently. And a lot of the phone numbers for the police stations that I've called, and all of the fucking appointments that all of that was recorded on the phone that was stolen yesterday. If the cops had collected it at any point in the last 2.5 years, I keep trying to give it to them. But they refuse to take a police report, refuse to look at the evidence. Same thing with all of my public pretenders. They all left me hanging, every fucking one of them. And they told me why, you know. It's not like they were entirely dishonest about it. Some of them were. Pamela Cardi, she was a fucking snake in the grass, that's for damn sure. Sleight of tongue. I really wanted to believe her. She fucking laid it on thick like she was gonna do something, and when it all came down to it, she didn't do anything but fuck me. I'd gotten unhomeless. I finally got disability, which is what my dad wanted, which is why he hated me for so many fucking years. I didn't get disability. He thought I should have been able to just press a magic button and it shows up at my front door and everything's fine and dandy and I've got a caseworker and everybody is fucking happy. But it don't work that way. You need someone in your corner so you don't get blown off. These are government employees, folks. Sure, some of them go to college and they're pretty gung-ho to begin with, but then they get into the humdrum of it all. And, it's no longer a passion to them. I always stuck up for the underdogs. I've always been the underdog. My panic attacks fucking suck. But a lot of people who judged me for how I reacted, they reacted the same way to even less of the stimuli that I've had to endure. The type of stimuli. There are people who tell me about the one time something bad happened last year or the year before. I'm like, shit, hundreds of things have happened to me. When Natalie needed help, she went to her predators for that help. She didn't need help from her predators. She just needed a fucking cop to do their job, just like I did. We didn't need a bunch of fucking go-betweens through any of this. We needed me, Alicia, and a fucking cop to sit down. Before that, we needed me, Natalie, and a cop to sit down. If the cops had sat down in a room with all three of us, by the end of it, they'd have been telling Natalie how fucked up she was and that she really needed to fucking set this shit straight. Did she do that, though? Did she set it straight? Did she try to set it straight? Did Alicia ever admit that the phone that she gave me was broken as fuck? Did she ever admit that I didn't fucking molest her? Did she admit that we were friends and we had planned the trip? Did she admit that me staying behind the cricket store was her idea? Did Alicia admit any of those things? Did she admit that it was her and her sister's idea to go to Virginia Beach? Did she admit that it was her and her sister's idea to go to the pier? Did she admit that it was her and her sister's idea to go to Elliot's... No, actually, it wasn't Natalie's idea. It was Alicia's idea to go to Elliot's Coffee Grounds on my birthday. I was having a fucking stressful time. Moose was in jail. I didn't have the money to go see the other people that I had planned on seeing in the trip. I'd spent all that money rescuing Jamie Curtis and her son from James Payton. I need somebody to look at the evidence before it's all lost or stolen, or the time limit is up. A lot of the evidence that the police have, their body cameras, the police cameras in the jails, the cameras that were in Clearview, those are all important to requisition, and you have a limited time to do it. My public pretender, Zoe Tanner, didn't do her job, and the time limit on getting that stuff is over, so they get to pretend it doesn't exist. That video in that timeout room, it should have started how it really did start, with me walking in there calmly, being afraid because they still wouldn't get the cops to come there, and they were pulling out needles and telling me that they have to inject me because the doctor ordered it. I'm like, the doctor hasn't even fucking seen me. I've seen him maybe 2 minutes in the whole time that I've been here. You guys cannot put fucking drugs in me for trying to call 911, goddammit. That video should have shown where I was hiding under the mattress because I was fucking scared of those people. That was exactly what I was scared would fucking happen if I couldn't get somebody to go in with me to talk to the police. I already knew what would happen because I've seen it happen hundreds of times to hundreds of people. Most of them homeless. But then when it happens to somebody in a house, the person in a house gets to sue. When it happens to a homeless people, folks say, good riddance, or they fucking deserved it. It's not all right for the police to treat somebody the way they treated Zayd Atkinson because it was his own property, right? Well, it wasn't his own property. First of all, he was renting. And second of all, if it's wrong to do to somebody, it's wrong to do to them. Whether or not it's their house doesn't matter. If they're on the sidewalk or they're picking up garbage, don't be a fucking asshole. Let them pick up the fucking garbage. They're doing us all a service. If you wouldn't do it to somebody in a house, you shouldn't do it to somebody who's homeless. And if you're allowed to do it in a house and somebody who's homeless isn't allowed to do it outside, I think you got your priorities straight, because a squirrel don't need a door to shit. A squirrel doesn't need a handle to flush after it urinates. A squirrel doesn't pay rent. A squirrel doesn't devote 8 hours of its day, at least, to trying to keep a roof over its head, while it's trying to share a tiny hovel with another squirrel who's working 8 hours a day to cover a part of it. And statistically, there would actually be 3 squirrels in that hovel, all paying rent, paying taxes. And that statistic is even more staggering when you consider it doesn't consider gas, insurance, or food. So you end up here homeless, being treated like a homeless person. Being treated the way that you treated people for years and years. And then you cry your first night out, your second night out, you cry that whole first week. Because you didn't know it was going to be like that. You didn't know homeless was going to be like that. You didn't know that those cops aren't so nice as they are when you live in a nice fancy house. And you're thinking to yourself, these cops will have mercy on you because you ended up homeless because your husband molested your kids and you turned them in. But then you couldn't cover the bills and you ended up homeless and they took your kids away, and the cops don't like you. They say mean things to you, like if you were a decent mom, you'd have your kids and your kids never would have gotten taken away. Might even be the very same officer who came to your rescue and arrested your husband. Although the woman in this story, she actually kicked her husband out for 2 weeks. And he went to Boulder, Colorado, and he was homeless there. And when they busted him, there was all sorts of stuff about a child molester, homeless dude in Boulder. And really, if she'd have called the cops immediately instead of kicking him out, they'd have been talking about the bricklayer who molested his kids, instead of the homeless people getting tarnished even further by a bad reputation that they don't fucking deserve. And yeah, on this trip, you've seen heroin heads, you've seen meth heads, you've seen pack rats. That guy whose gear I was videotaping at the beginning of this, he's a meth head. He's scratched off half of his head. I mean, he's got probably an inch wide by 5 or 6 inch long scratch off on the top of his head. But there's also a lot of people out here who are sober, a lot of people who are trying to clean up their lives, and they relapse a lot because they go gung-ho for a month and they realize they're going further back into the hole. I mean, they're trying to hold a sign or trying to get a job, and, after not getting a job and not getting a job, they go to fly a sign for a few hours hoping to get enough to just get something to eat and hopefully some bus fare to go back out job searching. And life fucking happens, The cops keep fucking with them, and people are more likely to give you money if you're an alcoholic, believe it or not. You tell them you need a beer, or you let them know that you're going to be going to rehab and you need just one last hurrah before you go into rehab. And yeah, people will fucking give you all sorts of money. But when you're sober and, you're miserable, and it's different. People aren't as nice, actually. So a lot of the people, they try to hit the bar crowd. See if some of them college kids would kick down some cash. Jefferson LeSueur, he used to be a friend of mine before all of this happened. He used to play for the bar crowd. He used to stay drunk pretty much all the time. After all this happened with Natalie, he pretended like I was some sort of a bad person who is never his friend. Alicia Bollinger needs to come forward. The police need to do their fucking jobs. I did everything I could to try to force the fucking cops to do their jobs. The public pretenders wouldn't even do their fucking jobs. And then these people who pretended that they were my friends. Yeah, I got angry after jumping through all of the hoops that they wanted me to jump through for the help that they promised me and didn't come through with. Yes, I am understandably pissed. And then they want to get pissed off and play fucking victim when I call them out for being bullshitters. Fuck you, you're not a goddamn victim, bitch. What you did is borderline predatory. If you did it on purpose, it's definitely predatory. If you did it on accident, it's still borderline predatory. And it's fucked up. Because I was good to people.